All right, let's talk about something that happens every single day at pretty much any industrial site: visitors. But we're going to look at this in a totally new way. This isn't just about signing a logbook. We're talking about turning a massive liability into a real asset. And it all kicks off by rethinking where the real danger lies. Just let that sink in for a minute. You can spend all this money on high-tech fences, gates, security, and it can all be for nothing in a split second. This quote really hits the nail on the head. The biggest threat isn't always some shadowy figure trying to break in. Sometimes it's just a matter of not knowing who you've already let through the door.
It kind of makes you think, doesn't it? Is your biggest risk just strolling right through the front door? For a lot of plants and factories out there, the honest answer is probably yes. When you've got unmanaged visitors, you've got uncertainty. And in these high-stakes environments, uncertainty is something you just can't afford. So let's dig into that.
Okay, first up, the unseen security gap. And really, this is all about understanding that having a visitor at an industrial site, well, it's a whole different ballgame than just buzzing someone into a regular office.
So here's the absolute key takeaway. We've got to change how we think about this. It's not about being a friendly host. It's about controlling hazards. Every single person who sets foot on your site, if they're not a full-time employee, they need to go through a careful, planned process. A process that's all about reducing risk.
And what are those risks? Oh, they're all over the place. I mean, you've got active work zones with heavy machinery, forklifts zipping around. You've got hazardous materials, restricted areas, and of course, the ever-present risk of someone stealing your trade secrets. Any single one of those things could lead to a serious injury, huge fines, or just killer downtime.
And hey, on top of all those physical dangers, you've got this massive weight of compliance. This isn't just about what you'd like to do or your internal rules. We're talking about serious legal stuff, regulations that tell you exactly how you have to manage safety for everybody on site, including people who don't even work for you. And what's really interesting here is you can see all the different layers of rules you have to follow. You've got the government, right, like OSHA. Then there are global standards like ISO 45001. And then, a lot of the time, your own customers might have their own specific demands for how you handle visitors. Yeah, that flimsy old paper logbook, it's just not going to cut it anymore.
Which, leads us perfectly into our next section, moving beyond that dusty old logbook.
And here's the absolute heart of modern visitor management. The game is won or lost long before that visitor even shows up. It's all about preparation, pre-vetting, and communication. Just waiting for them to arrive and then figuring it out, that's just asking for trouble. When you handle all this stuff beforehand, it completely changes the game. You can actually verify who they are and why they're coming. You can shoot them the safety rules and tell them what PPE they need before they show up wearing the wrong shoes. You can get NDA signed, permits collected, all digitally. And the best part? Check-in can be as simple as scanning a QR code. It's not just safer, it's way, way more efficient. Okay, so how do we actually structure all this? Let's break it down into 3 simple phases that make the whole thing easy to follow.
So here it is, the modern visitor journey. It's the whole life cycle, right? First, before arrival, that's all the pre-registration stuff. Then, on-site, which is everything that happens once they're there. And finally, post-visit, making sure they leave properly and you get some useful data out of it. But there's a really critical detail in all of this. A one-size-fits-all plan, it's one of the biggest and most dangerous mistakes you can make. You just can't treat every single person who shows up the exact same way. It doesn't work. And this chart shows you exactly why. Just look at the different types of risk. A delivery driver, your main worry is traffic and yard safety, so you keep them at the loading dock. But an auditor? Now you're worried about sensitive data, so they need an NDA, maybe even an escort. And then you've got your contractors. They're facing the most hazards, so they absolutely need proof of training and access only to specific zones. Your process has to be smart enough to know the difference. So once they're actually on site, your process has to be solid. You got to confirm their identity, give them a badge that actually says what their role is, not just visitor, and lock down which zones they're allowed in. And this is huge. You have to make sure they've done the right safety briefing and that you know how to account for them in an emergency. Okay, trying to manage all of this with pen and paper, for hundreds of people, that would be an absolute nightmare. So how do you actually make it work? Well, this is where technology steps in and becomes the glue that holds this whole thing together. We're talking about a visitor management system, or a VMS. And think of it like the central nervous system for this whole process. It's so much more than a digital sign-in sheet.
It's a platform that links everything together, from the first invitation all the way to the report you get at the end. And the real magic, the real power, comes from integration. When your VMS can talk to your door access system, to employee calendars, even to HR, suddenly you're cutting out all kinds of manual mistakes and creating this smooth, automated flow. Approvals get faster, and your security gets a whole lot tighter. The benefits of going digital are just huge. You get one single source of truth for everyone: security, reception, management. You get digital records you can actually search instead of digging through a pile of papers. And maybe the most important thing? You know exactly who is on your site right now. And those audit reports that used to take days to pull together, you can get them with the click of a button. Okay, so the path forward is pretty clear, but it's also really important to know about the common traps people fall into. Let's talk about the mistakes you want to avoid. I mean, this comparison really says it all, doesn't it? The old paper way is slow, it's full of errors, and it leaves you completely blind in an emergency. The new digital way is consistent. It gives you proof of what happened, and it delivers that critical, real-time list of who's on site. It's the difference between guessing and knowing.
So what are the big mistakes? First, slapping a generic visitor badge on everyone. We already saw why that's a terrible idea. Second, treating a high-risk contractor the same way you treat a casual guest. And third, not having a clean sign-out process. Come on, if you don't know who has actually left the building, your security has a massive hole in it. And let's wrap up with one last thought about what this is all really about. A great visitor process isn't meant to be a roadblock or make things difficult. It's about making things clear. It's about letting the right people move around your facility safely and confidently, knowing who's accountable for what. It's not about restriction, it's about enabling safe and productive movement. So I'll leave you with this one question to think about. You've probably spent countless hours and a ton of money optimizing every single part of your production process, right? Making it as efficient and safe as possible. But what about your visitor workflow, the one process that literally walks risk right through your front door? Is that still just a forgotten liability?